presence is something beyond the thought, beyond the thought. Presence in itself means pre-senses, before senses. So to be present means to be beyond 5 senses. We're all very familiar with these 5 senses. Smelling, hearing, tasting, touching, seeing. Being present is beyond these 5 senses. These 5 senses allow us to perceive the apparent world, the reality that appears to these 5 senses. There are many realities which can also be perceived with the third eye, other vibrationally realities, but being present is something else. It is being behind anything that appears. It is being behind, but at the same time it is being with what appears. So we are not trying to block anything, and we are not trying to detach, or I could say observe, which is a very common practice in 400s with the higher self, when we kind of detach and we observe. Many times you can see people, they're a bit frozen, and so they're observing. I call them frozen in time, But that is a useful practice, to observe. Yes, you detach, you step back, and you just observe what is happening. Being present is being behind the 5 senses, behind this appearing world. Because if you look now, what you perceive is exactly with the 5 senses now. And only if you draw your attention back to its source, then you will recognize, okay, there is a lot more than what we can perceive now with these 5 primitive human senses. Maybe other beings have more senses, 7 or 10 or 20, to perceive a lot more of reality in many different ways. So human body is intelligent. It is quite complicated, but it's not the ultimate. We can only imagine in this vastness of the universe how many more sentient beings there can be, with many more ways of sensing the world. But regardless of how many senses we have, 5 or 10 or 20, becoming present is the same. It is being beyond, behind, but at the same time allowing everything to be naturally. So whatever appears in front of us, we allow it to be. If there are some thoughts, we recognize Yes, the thoughts are in front. They just appear. There is no need to fight or try to change or do anything with them. If emotions appear, we are fully with them. We say, okay, there is this emotion, let it be. Usually the pain is caused by resistance, because we try to remove it. That is resistance. We try to block it. That is resistance. We put effort, huge effort to let it go. That is again on some level resistance. But simply being with what is, being with the appearing feelings and emotions, is a practice of presence. If the energy is very rough and it takes you very deep and into a very dark place, you let it go, you let it go, you let it flow. Wherever it wants to take you, you go with it. Because who would resist it? The mind would resist it, isn't it? The mind would say, no, I prefer a sunny place. I prefer a cushy cloud, or I prefer to do something else which is not as challenging. And the mind says, I don't like what I feel. It's not supposed to be here. You know? The mind says to life, you're not supposed to be here. What a paradox. So, being present is allowing everything to be. Even if you go into great difficulty, you go in it. You experience it fully. You dive deep into it. And you also find your way out. Because by being present, you cannot be stuck. If you know how to be present, you cannot be stuck. You will allow the energy to flow to the bottom, and you will allow the energies to start rising. Every energy comes and goes, flows. So the degree of presence is the lessening of resistance towards what is. And developing your awareness and the strength of the light of the awareness to be able to illuminate deeper and deeper or higher and higher states of consciousness. Being able to illuminate deeper and deeper places of the mind. Enlightenment is being able to illuminate the unconsciousness, the very depth, the very deep sleep state, the very bottom of the bottom. Enlightenment illuminates the unconsciousness, not the conscious mind, not the subconscious mind, illuminating the unconsciousness itself. In cosmic terms, that is the dark matter, the great void, the complete unknown of the universe. So there is the manifested universe and there is unmanifested universe. The manifested universe can be perceived in many levels of vibrations, But the unmanifested universe is the unborn. It's the potential of manifestation. It's the dark matter, it's the dark energy. That place is already beyond the universal consciousness. On the map of spirituality, I'm speaking now what is at 800s. The second enlightenment, the 800s, the great void, the great depth. So your light of, your strength of presence, the removal of resistance from what is, and the strength of your awareness, the light of consciousness, is what defines the degree of enlightenment. And therefore, by practicing presence, we start to attain the knowledge and the tool which will serve us from the beginning of practice of presence of 600s right up until 1000. It is literally the one and the same practice of learning how to be present with what is, removing any resistances from what happens, and strengthening the light of awareness and consciousness. You can also add two more tools: the path of knowledge, which is the self-realization and self-enquiry, and you can add another tool, which is the path of devotion, the bhakti yoga, to devote your heart to the divine, to let go of the personal self, to let go of the personal needs, of the ego's needs and desires, and to completely devote oneself to the divine. So these tools will enable the one who is mature, the one who is already very well settled in 500s. It will enable that person with these tools to progress forward, to know how to not get stuck anymore, anytime. It's the practice of presence, removing resistances, strengthening the light, inquiring, yes. By strengthening the light, I mean also self-enquiry. Because in self-enquiry, you negate what is not you, what is not real, and you point your focus and attention to that which is real, to that which is fundamentally real. And it is always good to add more juice to the practice and to also practice the devotional path. Sometimes to let go of me, I want to achieve this, and just to devote your heart to the divine. That instantly shifts the flow of energy. Because when we practice self-enquiry, presence, strengthening the light of awareness, we put a lot of focus within us and deepening within us. But when we practice devotion, we right away shift the flow of energy towards the divine. So even energetically, there is the inward flow of our energy, attention, consciousness, and there is the outward flow of our attention, energy, and consciousness. So today we will practice presence, removing resistances, and strengthening the light of awareness. That is the real practice. It takes time to perfect it. Nobody was born perfect. It takes time to perfect it. And every time you will get better. And today we can do that together. And it will allow us to really deepen into our true self. And for the practice of presence, you can close your eyes, or if you're more experienced, if the mind is not distracting you, you can even keep your eyes open. If the thoughts and the mind will not distract you, you can meditate with your eyes open. That's another challenge. How is it possible to meditate with your eyes open? So let's come back to the practice. And you can close your eyes. And very gently you can bring your attention just to recognize your 5 senses. Maybe smelling or hearing. Just to recognize that they're here. You can put your attention to your breath. And to slowly recognize what is inside you at this moment. What feelings, emotions, energies are now in this moment inside you, and just allow them to be here. Letting it be here. Very gently being with what is inside you. If there are any thoughts, you can bring your attention to your breath. And try to bring softness to every energy, every feeling, every thought. very gently holding every feeling, every energy, every thought. You can take a moment to observe the space in which these feelings, energies, or thoughts are. If there is any pressure, you can bring more space. You can breathe around it. Bringing some softness, gentleness. Slowing down. fundamental. The field of presence, the field of awareness. Your mind is wandering. Let it be. Be present with your mind. Anything that happens, let it be. Be present with that. presence has qualities of patience, strength, compassion. Very slowly, you can start bringing your attention back feeling your body, your five senses. Returning back to the present moment. Yes, it It takes a lot of patience, a lot of strength, and a lot of compassion towards the difficulties to be fully present. The mind is usually active. It has a propensity. It wants to do everything on the list. But for the real seeker, the question should arise: is it in doing? Is it in doing that one achieves the self-realization? Or is it in being and deepening into the beingness that one achieves the self-realization? The same way, the one who is present, it is sitting quietly, silently on the top of the mountain and just watching everybody in the valley doing what they're doing. Living with the five senses is being in the valley. Sitting at the top of the mountain is being fully present. You have already mastered doing. You have learned the lessons of doing. You recognize that the value is in being. This is where many times achieving this realization can become a sort of withdrawal from the external world. Because in that deep realization there comes knowing that there is nothing to do and there is nobody doing anything. It was just the illusion of the five senses. So therefore, you can arrive at conclusion that when you are present, there is no doing, and there is nobody doing anything. There is no self, no doer. So therefore, that can be named as a beingness. The one who does nothing and is not perceiving itself through the five senses. Even the mind is perceived as the flowing energy. In the state of true beingness, the mind is perceived as a flowing energy. So yes, we need to allow the mind to flow. The identification or ego is the identification with certain parts of the mind. So you see how fragmented is the mind consciousness. When it's mixed up, yes, it is so fragmented Because a person picks up, on the lower level, the person picks up a certain belief and he says, this is the truth, this is who I am. But at the end of the day, it's only one tiny bit of energy which is called a belief, a certain belief. And then the person grows up and he says, okay, I have many beliefs, I'm a bit more open-minded. So he taps into a bigger stream of water and he says, now I'm that stream of water. And the person keeps on picking different streams of water and saying, I'm this, I'm this, I'm this, I'm this, or I'm this. But all the rivers flow somewhere. They all flow into the ocean. So therefore, you perceive the flow of the mind. In reality, it is so simple. You don't need to do anything with it. You need to leave it alone. We have a tendency to really get involved, to really get into it and dig deep and really get involved in the mind. In reality, we need to learn, leave it, leave the mind, let it flow wherever it needs to flow. The universe is intelligent enough. But to be able to do that, you need to open up into the space, nothingness, awareness, where you're completely detached. Or even if you're drawn back into the mind, you can still remain present with the recognition that now I'm being drawn in the mind. Let me be there. Let me be present with that. You see, it is a great skill of non-resistance. It is an art of non-resistance. And at first you need quite a lot of effort to be non-resistant. You need quite a lot of effort to become non-resistant and effortless. I say, oh my gosh, why it is so difficult? Why did it take so much effort? And my reply is that you're learning to become effortless. To completely let go, disidentify, disattach from the mind. Become disinvolved, disinterested in the mind. The mind is like a magician, It can pull up all kinds of magic tricks from all the sleeves. And it's always gonna find a way to wow you, The mind is gonna say, oh, look at this. And you're gonna say, wow. And you're back in the mind. So many times it's called trickster. Yes, it's called trickster. It always finds a way of how to get you interested in something that appears. By that I mean reality, the manifested reality on all 12 dimensions. Believe me, there's a lot of stuff that can be interesting in 12 dimensions. And this is why you need to keep a very strong focus on the awareness, on the light of consciousness, because otherwise the mind will definitely gonna find how to make you interested in some kind of appearing phenomena. Even all the qualities of and attributes or feelings are still fragmented. For example, in the ultimate sense, even the peace and happiness and love and sense of freedom, they're also illusionary in the ultimate sense, because they're only the tastes which appear in the consciousness, which is the blissful, beyond the blissfulness, blissful light. So at some point you even have to become disinterested. When you reach that higher place, you can even become disinterested in the peace and love and happiness and freedom and joy and all these fancy things. I know they're important, but I'm speaking from that place, because nothing compares to that place. Nothing that is manifested can compare to that place. So this is how you need to be disinterested in order to become and attain the ultimate love, happiness, peace and bliss, which is beyond the changing dual energies. It is beyond something that can be taken away from you. And that is the real value. To have that which nothing can take away from you. Nothing in the universe can take it away from you. So that is the ultimate freedom. Peace, bliss, love, happiness. It's just a